Um, I know I've been babbling a lot. I was hoping to do, the final half of the game more quickly. I usually do the final half more quickly than the first half, but honestly, all that babbling is just kind of showing how much this game is enchanting me. It is one of the better winsomes I've seen, to tell you the truth. And very different in some ways, but once you learn a couple of the patterns and where sort of the track works and where it does and where it doesn't. But I already knew that before I played. That was tough track. You kind of are in a position where you don't have to do too much work on the track. So after a couple of plays, I think you pick this up pretty quickly, and you don't have to. You can start making strategic decisions instead of worrying too much about the optimization of the hex movement. Anyway, also, kind of would like to go to bed, but this is a sensitive turn, so I'm going to finish this turn up, but I'm not going to finish the game tonight. It's already way late. So this guy, we had decided, had to buy a yellow. He put in a ton of money, to tell you the truth. It was, I think, 46 bucks. 96 bucks to build this track, which shot us up to the 105 space. We grabbed Salt Lake City for green. And I think it's the best I could do. I mean, yes, I could have bought 2 shares of brown. That might be worth more victory points. But making sure I get the extra victory point here. Lots of people could buy into browns. We'll see. It seemed important to me to make my company work. I'm also going to be getting better income off of it. It's all settled. Unfortunately, it's Los Angeles and not San Fran, but that's okay. And that brings us over here. Don't know what we're doing. Oh boy. So this is ugly. I just bought another share. I had exactly the amount of money, 46 bucks, to buy that share. I put a pile of money in here. What I'd love to have been able to do is just run to here. I'm a little short. I don't have the money. If I had extra money, I could have thrown it in for that share to make sure I make it. As it is, though, 68, 76, 84, 96. I'm not making it. I'm at like 90 here, which means I could get as far as here. That doesn't really help me. And this is a problem. I certainly need to make this 24 space. The 44 puts me here, then I could shoot down here for less on another turn, or maybe somebody else can do it for me and slice across. I think it's the best I can do. So I'm gonna spend 68 bucks instead and only go 2 spaces. Side though, blue, the guy I'm racing, doesn't have a whole lot of cash he could throw in. If he throws everything in, it's 75, 125, 126 bucks. 96, 136. I mean, this track is just horrible. I should go up by 10. I just shot over the hump. There. Okay. Which means I'm going to lose this race because he's going to be able to slice down to here. Except, here's the one thing in my favor. If I move here, buy the share, I may have enough money to go here, and I can go before him. I think it's the only option I really have. I don't have to pay all my money because next turn I'll probably be buying another blue share just to get enough cash to make that whole run. So I'm gonna try to race black there. I have the advantage because of the turn order card. This is something that black didn't really have any control over. They were the number 1 card last turn. I mean, it's just the nature of things. Maybe I could have foreseen that I was going to get beaten by blue, but it wasn't obvious before last turn that Los Angeles wasn't going to be open to one of us, that these two weren't going to be open. Purple in an ugly position here. I want to shoot up through here, but I don't know. I could buy a share and run all the way up there. That'd be cool. Or I could run to here. Or here. What I can't do, if I run all the way to here, is still make it to Portland. That would take 8 of my cubes. 4, 8. That would leave me with 2. Which would, I'd be 3 away from Portland. So I can't run all the way up where I can jump into Seattle on 1. And that means I think what I want to do is run to here, and then I can make my choice between those two. You know, where, because I just need one of them. I mean, the income difference isn't that big a deal. The big deal is I could get sliced out of both of them. That leads to interesting questions. For example, do I have enough money for 2 browns? If I bought 2 browns, it might be that brown will be able to beat out red or something, but I hope they're not going to be able to beat out purple. That's the only real risk there. But I only have 1 purple. I'd have 2 browns. That isn't that terrible, right? You know, I mean, I don't think he's doing that well. There's people with more greens than him, and brown doesn't look any better than yellow. He's got 2 yellows. I don't see where he's going to be ahead. By the way, I can get rid of this cash if I want to. Just can't be used for anything. All the cubes are on the board. I could actually get rid of both brown and pinks sheets too, or brown, green and pink sheets too, but I'm going to leave them there to remind me who bought it to begin with. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna try that, but I'm gonna see how much money I actually need, because I may need less money than I did before. 20, 28, 38, 44, 52, 76. I have enough cash, so I think I'm gonna buy those browns. I'm $2 short. Given that, purple doesn't seem like a bad choice, but on the other hand, I probably want to optimize my money, to tell you the truth. In terms of victory points, buying the cheapest thing possible. So if yellow ends up, I doubt it, a little cheaper, I'll go with it. Black and blue I want to stay away from. They're probably a victory point less. One of them at least is a victory point less than what everything else is getting. It would be nice to sell out my purples though, so that might come into a close decision. Player also did not have enough money to buy 2 shares of brown. He had probably enough cash to run red to where he's going, which is up here. Now red's in a position where he needs 64, 70, 80, 116, 128. I can raise that easily. I'm going to get the revenue for it, but even if I didn't, I could buy another share of it with the revenue that I'm going to make. So that's not going to be a problem. Red is able to make it to Seattle. But timing. Well, I was clever. I have the 6 card. I can go first. I can assure myself that purple is not going to be able to jump in. And purple's feeling wise, certainly for not going to here. They had enough cash to do so. And yeah, you know, I hope I have my incomes correct here. But remember, red went this northern route. That seems to have a lot of money on it. Means brown's probably closed out, or is it purple that's closed out? Brown. Oh, if he's got enough cash, he can't beat red. So this is interesting. The cheap route going through here isn't going to get him where he needs to go. And the expensive route going straight to Portland, I probably don't have the money for. 1640.96, 136, 144. I mean, it's just a huge amount of money. But I could race all the way to Portland if a lot of people bought Browns. That could happen. There's a lot of money coming in. Is there any real desire to cut purple? I don't know. I mean, they're not doing badly, but... And we've got this race here, which I think is decided. I think blue has won it. But I'm not sure. Mainly because blue has priority over black. And enough cash that with another purchase they can make it. So that's kind of interesting. Brown couldn't possibly make it to Seattle. I forgot. Or purple. They could if someone else buys a couple shares of them. But on their own, this is the only run they can make into Portland. Now, what about Brown? They going first. Brown, there's some pipe dream that if I go late enough, other people buy a share of my company, enough to get enough money, and there's enough of us invested that we can slip in, not to Seattle because Red's going to get that, but into Portland. But purple has next option. They're going to go second if I go anywhere else. It's a completely false dream. So I'm going to grab this. And purple was kind of goofy. Red could have played it so that purple doesn't get into Portland. But if they do that, Brown might have been able to make it to Seattle. They have this nice cheap run going here. It's not real cheap, but it's possible. And that's something we'd rather not see. So probably not going to see these shares sell out, though. I think the companies that sold out, and that's probably it, just by the amount of money involved. Yeah. I don't see many cases where you could put an argument for people wanting to go later. This guy's only argument for doing so is that by going later, Brown may get track lays that aren't his, and its value may increase. But then, do I really get a bonus out of my one share? Somebody else who's doing that probably is throwing more shares in or something. So, it just doesn't seem like a viable plan to me. So I think everybody is just going to go as early as they possibly can on this last turn. And we'll see how much I remember by tomorrow. But this is turning out to be a much more exciting and interesting game than I thought it was. I thought it would be way too much fiddling with those numbers there. The actuality, yeah, you can see where the good routes are. And I think there's basically a few different good routes going up in the north. One good route basically going through here, which you can see 3 people used it, And this few good routes comes down to there's 2 ways through. I don't think the south is worth going to. But maybe with proper investment techniques, you can make it work. It's just the payoffs have not worked out well there. Now, maybe if one of the cheap companies had run in the south, because we can see the guys who went cheap and threw out a lot of shares, first of all, they sold out all their shares. Secondly, they got where they were going. Pink had problems, and they're the ones who started way too cheap. Everybody bought them out, but they didn't have enough. They didn't have enough money to keep going. They ended up with a whole bunch of cubes that they couldn't play. But green did pretty well at kind of a moderate price and some pretty solid track. But pink is on solid track too. These just seem like a significant weakening compared to the central and northern routes going through. Now, it may be that I'm not far enough south, because there's kind of cheap paths, not all that cheap. And you end up with not quite enough cubes to do these routes. Whereas here, this route is pretty much just even on the good route, right? It just made it. And up here, there were a few extra cubes, a couple extra cubes to let you get through if you can do it, and good income production early in the game, which is very, very nice. Even though income doesn't matter, you know, in terms of how you win the game or whatever. Having a lot of cash means you can buy more certificates. On this last turn of the game, I guess we don't have to actually score the income. I mean, because you bought your shares, you got to play it out. That's all you get to do. So there's no reason to do that any more than there is to set the turn order. And let's move this forward. Looking at the state of player money and even some of the company money, it looks to me like last night I forgot to hand out income before I assigned the new turn order. So I'm going to have to jump in and do that. And notably, I was looking at, red doesn't have enough money. Okay, that's fair. They have a lot of cash. I'll have to buy a share, but there's no money here, and that clearly could not have been the case. And then I look at some of the other companies, like Yellow has almost no cash on hand. And I also do not remember two companies paying out incomes that were over 100. So I think I kind of messed that up. It's not a big deal. I can take care of that, and I think my turn order decisions were based on reasonable choices. I just jumped the gun and didn't collect the income first. On hand is of no value whatsoever in this game at the end of the game. It's highly important to how you go, you know, your profits and everything are very important in terms of what you can buy. I have enough money to run my red. I don't have enough money to buy the 3 remaining shares of red. In fact, all I could buy is probably 1. Brown, however, is the cheapest of the railways. I can actually buy 2 shares of brown with this guy. In terms of victory points, that seems to be the best. I can count it out for you, but 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to be worth. So that would be worth 8 victory points for my purchase. Might be worth more. It's conceivable if red could make it to Portland, I might be able to jam both of those in which case getting a couple browns cuts purple off, who's otherwise doing okay. So that's really what I want to look at, is will there be enough money? Will the plays be in the right order? This guy will clearly favor brown if he can throw enough money in to push it. Plus, I can overpay. I can pay all my money for those 2 shares to make sure that I can make it. That's probably what I want to do anyway, because red is going to string straight through. If red's going to string to Portland. I don't think I can make it, though. That's 96, 104, 112, 120, 164. I can't make it. I can't make it with both companies. And buying 2 brown doesn't really help. Buying another red, I mean, buying 2 brown is still a good move, but buying another red to try to get to Portland means I don't get the 2 brown. So all I do is I hand this advantage off to brown, which, it might be okay, but I can make more victory points off of those 2 brown. So I think I'm going to buy that and let purple get away with what they've got. Yeah, you know, let me look at the victory situation, because he's got 3 pinks. Pinks aren't worth all that much, although they are sold out, which is a big deal. Green is also sold out and is worth a lot. I got that matched. Right now I'm back of pink. And he has enough money. You know, it might be worth. But here's the thing. If I don't buy those two brown, I don't think brown has enough to make it through. 16, 28, 38, 44, 64, 74, 80, 104, 144, 150, 160, 196, 198, 208. There's not enough between him and that to put it there. Who's player 3? Player 3 is purple. He'll be jumping in with his purples no matter what. So I think my best move is to buy those two browns, hook red up into Seattle, and let purple get what they're going to get. Getting the two browns allows me, because I have the majority, there's only one out right now, to run the brown track as well. Still important for me, not just to lay the track, but to actually increase red's income, because that affects the price that other people might buy red shares for with their huge victory point swing now. 3, 4, 5, 6, 33 more. 98, 128 puts me up there. Haven't done the brown yet. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with brown. Obviously, I need to get across here. Once I do that, do I want to spend any more? Is kind of the question. Of course, maybe brown can make it through to Portland, and that would be an interesting call. I've just thrown all my cash into brown, so let's see if that's the case. Not because I'd run out of tokens. I only have 4 tokens. That would get me to here. I don't know about the cash situation. So, and there's no line to Portland or anything that I can do. There's no way I can set this up so that brown can slip into anything at the remaining port. Now, San Diego's still open, but obviously I can't get that. So I think my best move is to optimize, is to crash here, make sure the victory points happen in case he gets some weird idea, because I've got 2 browns that he doesn't really want to support it much. Boosting up the stock value to this, I make it so that it's harder for anyone else to justify buying a brown. Nobody's going to be able to buy 2 as easily. Let's see what we're at. 24, and I don't know, 7, 10, 12. So it's at 36 now. So you'd have to have $72 to buy 2 of them. Now, there are people with that much money, but not enough to buy 3. So and they're the only one that has that. They may be able to find something that's worth more victory points than 2 brown. It's hard to tell though. They're going very, very late here. Prices are all going to be inflated. And yellow's already expensive. That's theirs. They would love to sell it out, but it doesn't look likely. The price is the way they are. Brown is clearly not something worth buying. He's only got enough money for 1 brown share. He doesn't want to do that. Somebody else might buy 2, but again, that seems unlikely. I look at my choices, and the 2 things that I can afford that look the most valuable are yellow and purple. If I take purple, I can make it to Portland, boom. It's worth as many victory points as yellow is. Yellow has a couple of track plays. Purple basically has to make it to Portland. I don't want to hurt purple. I already have a 1 share. That 2nd share would raise the price of purple and make it harder for other people to buy it. And I may go with it for that reason. The other thing that enters as a factor and contributes to my decision, because I'm going to go purple, is I look at these 2 players who are about equal. I'm not going to come in the winning percentage, but I'm in kind of a kingmaker position. Maybe not. let's look at shares remaining. So one of the things is yellow might sell out, which makes it worth an extra victory point. If he has enough money for 2 yellows, I don't know if he does. Let's see, 32 plus 21, 53. He does not have enough money for 2 yellows, so it's not likely to sell out, but it might still. If it does sell out, it's worth an extra victory point to me, but it definitely boosts his victory points heavily. Same thing with purple, but purple's less likely to sell out, I think. Yeah, no, there's... Ooh. All the more reason to buy a purple because I already have one, right? Okay, but sort of the matchup I'm looking at is greens and yellows. And greens are worth an extra victory point, but greens and yellows matched up here, or I'm sorry, greens and pinks. He has 4 of them. He has 4 of them. Actually, those greens are worth more than the pinks are because the pinks didn't even make it across. The greens are very good. They're sold out. Everything's good for them. Yeah, so I think this guy's ahead. So I'm going to throw my weight into the purple and try to make it more likely for purple to sell out because this guy's clearly in the lead over the 2 of them. And that means we're going to be racking into Portland, using those last 3 tokens. It means he's not going to be able to do anything with it, but that's okay. I might as well throw all my cash into that. This is my last purchase. This is the thing. People are throwing all their money into whatever they buy because if they're buying a share of it, they want to support it better. Buy extra purple, but interestingly enough, if 1 more purple left, even if I had cubes, I wouldn't want to play them. I've got all the victory points I'm going to get off purple. Anything else I do is just going to make it harder to purchase, and I really want somebody to buy that certificate. That's a valuable, piece of property, and everybody's got to kind of decide, hey, do we want to bonus purple with a sellout, or maybe risk a sellout for yellow? Yellow can't buy 2 though, so just thoughts along those lines. And one of the things you have to do at this point in this kind of game is assess, hey, who's ahead of you? Those are the people you want to gain on. So you might take a little bit less profit. I know this goes against some of my theories, but you take a little less profit to end up pushing yourself into the victory position, just because you might be helping someone who's ahead of you. You might gain on someone who's ahead of you. And it's more the gaming material in this rather than any kind of realistic motivations. Usually you're not saying, I can't stand that Rockefeller is richer than I am. I want to be the richest person. I don't care if I lose some money doing it. Seems unlikely, but who knows? I mean, when you're getting to the really, really wealthy side of things, they've got all the money for anything they want. It becomes a status thing. Why isn't it I'm the guy who's the best? One would wonder why it isn't, but it doesn't seem to be motivated that way terribly. Okay, over to this guy. He needs to try to get his blue across, and we'll see what he can do about that. Shit, I thought I was so clever being down here. I wasn't. Now black's not going to make it anywhere, but I thought I hooked this up so clever. I have enough money, and if I buy a share, which I just threw a whole bunch of money in, and I don't know how much. I didn't transfer the share yet. But I only have 5 tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's mark it up to tiredness last night. I wouldn't have been able to make it across, but I'm getting more heavily hurt by another victory point by not getting across here. I'm not going to buy that share. I'm going to probably invest in the last share of purple, I guess. I don't know. So I can't buy green. That's the only thing that's worth more. So yeah, let's, I don't know, it was some unimportant money. I'll buy the last share of purple instead. I still get to run blue and get it across the mountain, but I don't have enough tokens to get me across there. By playing for this and trying to be clever, I screwed up. I'm going to let it stand. because very obviously he wasn't going to win anyway. This guy's got an interesting position here. I don't need the money to get me to here. So I don't need to buy any blacks. Blacks are not great railroads. I can only buy one of them. I don't think I can buy 2 brown. 24. I can't remember. 36. I don't have over 60, so I can't buy 2 brown. If I build these blacks, will he be able to buy 2 blacks? That's the interesting question. Because if he does, that would be potentially a fair optimization of victory points. Because by setting up to here, or beyond, which I would, there would be, assuming I have enough cubes, right? There would be a shot to run down, hit San Diego. Now, that would help him tremendously in terms of victory points. But it would also give this guy 2 end-of-the-line victory points. Now, does he get that anyway? That's a serious question. Because his yellow is worth 32. This would be his best. 32 plus 11, 43. So I can buy 2 yellows anyway, which is as good as 2 blacks. If this guy buys a yellow, so I don't think he's going to help black out here. If this guy buys a yellow, he does the same thing the guy buying a purple did, which is, hey, I'm going to take some victory points, get the extra victory point for sellout by building this. And I think that's what I need to do here. My money doesn't really matter. I have enough, and only enough for 1 share of anything, so we'll just throw it all in there. Grab a yellow. Oh, there are tokens for yellow. I could make yellows more expensive. That doesn't really serve my purpose. I want it to sell out, so I'll ignore that and do nothing. And with black, I'll build my track out here. 8, 16, 28, 36, 44. Extra buck back in the impossible event that he would want to go there. And that adds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to my money. And all these cubes because I crossed it. But the biggie is it's an extra victory point for crossing into the west. And that's all I can do. And that puts it on him. He wants to buy out the yellows. I figured them out. He has enough money to buy 2 of them. So that's what he'll do. He has no track that he really wants to lay. I could drop a couple of yellow track, increase its income, but that doesn't do anything at this point. It's just wasting mental energy for no real reason. The income's decided. So we got 3 companies that didn't make it all the way. Blue, black, and brown. Blue couldn't have made it no matter what, but I could have made it past here, and that's going to hurt. And we'll calculate out victory points, and I'll consider what the extra victory point for blue would have meant, but I don't think that's an issue. And we had a lot of companies sold out here, which kind of shocked me that so many shares, so many companies got that extra bonus point. But, there's people who I can do a little better at the cost of somebody else doing much better, but that's okay. Since I have all these chips out, I'm going to use them for my victory conditions. Let's start scoring companies. So green's victory points are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the city. Sold out, they're worth 7 each. So I'll just hand out, you know, it's going to be 21. I'll just hand out stacks from the money thing to indicate what people get. And I'll come back and show the scoring. It's funny, I mean, you look at the prices here, there's no real starting price means something, you know, in terms of the valuation. So for example, the greens were worth the most. They came out at 7 points apiece. The pinks, which were this little dinky thing sold at 10, and 10 shares of it, well, because they made it most of the way, they only got 1 point less than red for track, and by selling out, they beat red out. How can you predict that red wouldn't sell out, but yellow and purple would? You know, they're all the same value. There's just as many yellows as there are reds. There's one more purple than there are reds. It's really tough to make an understanding here, except of course the yellow and purple player made significant efforts or bought a lot of their own shares. So, you know, if instead of a black, what if I bought a red here? Well, red might have sold out, and that would have been an extra 3 victory points. All right. I don't know, I would have had 18 between the 3 reds instead of 10, 15, 18. It would have come out even. But, yeah. So the 2 shares of brown was probably a safer purchase, even though it pretty much assured that red doesn't sell out. And the thing is, if red sold out, probably yellow or purple wouldn't have. So the problem with red is very high price and hit a lot of value. So it becomes less likely. It would have been 40, not a lot of shares, 128, 40, 60, would have been 62 a share. There were people who probably bought a purple or a yellow who could not have afforded to, like, to buy a red instead. It did too well as a rail. Now, doing too well is great. It creates more income and everything, but that's what we have. Do we have the numbers yet? Well, no. I still have to trash compact these values and see what we come up with. And remember, this guy's going to be $2 higher if he doesn't make this mistake. And of course, yellow would be $4 less if somebody didn't hand the leader, and he is clearly the leader, a sellout extra point for each. None of that would have mattered, though. He was far enough ahead, and everybody else was kind of close. 35, 30, 38. Oop, make it 40. Ooh, that would have been close. Take $4 or 4 victory points off, and he's down to 46. This guy's at 40. 25, 34, 33. You know, so we had 2 that were in the lead. And were they the 2 that I felt were the strongest, purple and yellow? You know, that might have been possible to cut purple. Yellow, not so easily. Yellow was set up a couple turns in advance. What it is, though, is people who took this central route did well. All the companies that took that were rich and better companies. That worries me a little bit. What does it mean? It may mean that people running on other routes may need to collude a little bit better. The people who are running these can work probably on their own and do pretty well. Or, like the green, which just kicked ass, you know, that got auto-colluded, basically. But that and pink were the only 2, the ones that sold out at small values that did really well. Did the people who started them do all that well? Well, I mean, the guy who started pink got 3 shares of it. The guy who started green isn't even the heaviest investor in green. That ended up over there. Big part of why he won, right? You know, he bought something cheap in large quantities. Why are you able to buy something cheap in large quantities? Because you're able to make enough income that you can buy maybe a couple shares at once or whatever at a key point. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. I do think the imbalance on the board, though, requires a little bit more thought than I went into this. Just like the first time I played and screwed everything up anyway. The roots were not as clear. You have to get them pretty damn close to precise, okay? You have to know which route you're going to follow very early in the game. And there's basically a few that look interesting, but you can see the three best companies followed one route entirely. And there really isn't much in the way of deviation from it. If you had a lot of extra money, maybe you could blast through, make a little bit less income, and spend a lot more money to try to plow through worse terrain. But there's only so many passes through the mountains, and there's only, you know, so many areas back here that produce the kind of revenue that you need to be able to buy shares. Because it doesn't really matter how well a company you started did. What matters is how many victory points you're going to get at the end, how many shares you have. Shares is a big deal. 3, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4, 5, 6. 5, 6, 7. 3, 6, 7. And only 5 up there. If you don't have enough shares, you're not going to get very many victory points. Even companies that don't produce a lot of victory points still produce a fair amount, like 4, okay? More than half what the winning total is. It's going to be pretty hard to be holding a share that doesn't produce at least 4 victory points, which is a good reason why starting a company early on, an extra company, seems to be a pretty good idea. You get to run as many of your companies as you want, you know, I mean, you get to lay track for companies as long as you're the majority holder. But it might make sense. So here's the thing. This route gets you to San Fran. I don't know if there's another route that does. I guess this route by black could. I don't know if this blue route is even viable. It would be pretty hard. Pink has what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, 12. They'd need 13. 1, 4, 8. Yeah, they don't have enough tokens to get there. So if you take one of the northern routes up through Butte and the pass there, you're not going to make it. Which really kind of means if you want the maximum victory, you're going to be taking this route. And I think the first 3 companies probably will start on that route in any reasonable game. And they will start here. Not, I've seen, not that, I've seen a shot from here and here to try to make a route here in the first game I was playing, where I didn't really know what I was doing, and that didn't work very well. What's great about this, you have all these spaces that are worth an income of 3, that are empty spaces. They don't appear to be valuable spaces, but when you look at them, wow, I'm paying $4 for the space and getting $3 in income from it. Cities, you know, are the same, right? I'm paying $8 for this space and getting $6 of income. It really doesn't matter how much, you know. What matters is the money you pay out versus the income. Although, of course, you cannot have a windy route. That is just the case. You've got a little bit of wiggle room to try to optimize your route, to try to pay a little less and try to get a little higher income, but not much. In the north, you have a little bit more wiggle room. You can see red made it there. They still got a couple of cubes. You know, I could have gone to Green Bay if there had been a turn where I had extra money. I could have gone somewhere else, you know. But the income gets high enough eventually. Early on is when you need that income. Now that northern route is pretty good for the income. So yeah, I would probably say this route gets 3 people. This route probably deserves 3 people. This was not as effective, but I didn't want to run. I wanted to test out different routes as I look. And that's just a facet of it, is there are certain channels that work. What would have been kind of nice, I think, is kind of a la High Frontier. Put the good channels, have them published kind of on the map. Because is it really fun to blunder around and not? I mean, in some games, blundering around's okay. In this, it feels like you're blundering around because you didn't want to do ridiculous amounts of work on counting and assessing the different routes. And you may not be able to tell on the first play. There's plenty of game here in terms of the interactions of the shares and the turn order and the number of shares that you issue and all kinds of stuff like that, and the price at which they're issued and what that effect is going to have on people. That the mechanical, mental aspect of counting a bunch of routes out just doesn't seem to be of any importance at all, really. I mean, the only thing it can do is make your first couple games kind of miserable. All right, let's send this up and we'll chat about it some more in the review.